Hi everyone, welcome to the stream for the Norway Gnomes match against Budapest. We're just joining the thrilling finale of the first games, in which we just made a draw on board 2 with Nikolai Getz, saving the game with a pawn down. And that actually means that we're off to a very good start. Simon Agdestein won his game. Joachim Nielsen won his game. And we're actually 2-1 up in the match. Now, my attention is going to be slightly divided. Because in addition to doing this stream, I am kind of the social media manager of the Norwegian team. So I'm going to do a quick update on the match score. Let's say something like great start for the Norway Gnomes. 2.5, 1.5 lead against Budapest. And let's hashtag that pro chess. So the next game is scheduled to start in just 3 minutes. So we won't have to wait long. I am not sure what happened in the individual games. Maybe we can have some report in the team chat. Let's ask if there were any exciting games. The team chat, I must say, I noticed during the last week is very disruptive to your thoughts. So some of the guys are actually turning it off while playing because the thing about the Pro Chess League, there are so many distractions and you actually have to focus quite a bit just to make sure that you're watching your game, not doing all other stuff you're bound to do while sitting at a computer. Yeah. Maybe I should check if there's some people actually watching the broadcast. Yeah. Should we do a sound check? I guess by the fact that nobody has been complaining, the sound check already passed. Yeah. I don't really have a plan for this. I don't know exactly how it's going to work out. I'm just going to jump a bit from game to game. Hopefully catching the action when it actually happens. Yeah. Today's team is Simon Agdestein makes his pro chess debut in great style, winning with the black pieces against the top Budapest player. In addition, we have Nikolai Getz, who I'm told is struggling with a bit of a flu. So that's going to be interesting if he can stay the course and get us the points we need. In addition, we have Joachim Nielsen, who is, basically every single player on our team is quite strong. Our weakest link is a 24-20 IM. So we have a fantastic team, but Budapest does as well. The Budapest team is basically just lots of very young Hungarian players, and we're quite evenly matched. We have a better board 1 with Simon Agdestein, but other than that, it's a very evenly contested match. So let's see. This is my hero. That is Nikolai Getz playing with the white pieces. An English attack in the Sicilian. I'm getting a reply from Joachim, which makes me think he's not 100% concentrated on his game. This is Joachim playing with the black pieces, some kind of an orthodox Ragozin, I would call this. It seems like they are taking their time in the opening. We have Simon Agdestein with the white pieces. People don't actually know this about Seaman, but in the shorter time controls, he's an absolute beast. He might be, approaching 50. Let's not say that too loud, but in the rapid time controls, he's still a beast, and I think he might be the match winner for us in this game. And finally, we have, who am I missing? Hauge, Lars Oskar. Okay, so the game started a bit late. That's why I couldn't check it out immediately. And Lars Oskar is playing a Sicilian with the black pieces. So that's some risky stuff, I must say, as the team captain. But it is Lars Oskar's style. So we'll give him a chance. I think the most interesting start was the Gets game, the English attack. Normally when you play the English attack, you place your pawn up on f3. Yeah, and he did. And this is usually you do it to prevent something like knight g4. I don't really know the theory here. In general, I would take this knight and see what happens. 1 point can be if you take it back. I cannot do lines. You take it back and then you maneuver the other knight to that square. And thereby also avoiding the thing about the pawn coming, attacking on b4. Yeah. This 15-minute time control is interesting because you actually get people thinking quite early on. And in all the games, really, people started using quite a bit of time. The good news is this is the Simon Agdestein game, Aggie 67. Wow, so it's actually his 50th birthday soon. Should note that in the calendar. He is playing much quicker than his Hungarian opponent. And he seems to have gotten... What has been the trick here? I think he delayed this normal move, c takes d5. And by doing so, he confused his young opponent. So hopefully that's good news. White's position is very solid. And now he's getting the development of the bishop kind of for free. So I think I'm going to say that we are very happy with the opening in Siemens' game. Our other white game gets the Sicilian. He didn't exchange the knight. And now this one is going to be a nuisance on e5. I think I would have preferred if he exchanged it, because now this knight can come up to c4 and really create some trouble for white. And also the opportunity of going b4, kicking the knight, and then if the knight goes to, say, e2, then you can go knight c4. So and also Nikolai is using a lot of time. I'm concerned about this game against the top-rated Hungarian player. It must be said. But even so, we need all the points we can get, and any white game is a place we really would like half a point at least. The next game, this is kind of strange. It's a very unusual opening. In this, No, it's not unusual. It's just the Vienna. But this check is very unusual. And then you have to go in between with the knight in order to protect the bishop. And now he's keeping the pawn. He's going for it. b5, protecting this extra pawn on c4. The knight cannot take the b pawn because there's a pin on the king. I'm liking this very much. Pawn up. It's not the greatest pawn, but it's still a pawn. Often you underestimate the value of this extra pawn on c4. So I'm going to say I like black's position. And also, Joachim is way up on time, and that is always a good sign. So I'm going to say I like our position here. Wow! Wow! What is going on? It's Rajoscar with the black pieces, and he has lost a rook. That is a rook. That does not make me too happy. Wow, that's a rook. I assume here on d4, if we go back a bit, we had this position. He played b5. His opponent played e5. Possibly a very good move. This pawn was taken, and then queen f3 hits the rook. If the rook goes up, then there would be some trouble with a discovered attack somehow. But could he have gone bishop g4? Possibly. The fact that he just spent 52 seconds on this move is, I think, incredible. It's such a complicated position. You would think you should consider rook a7, bishop g4. But also, he took this knight. It could be a very good practical choice. White takes the rook. And now the issue, this knight is attacked. It's not very easy to defend it. So how to defend this? We would like to hit this bishop somehow, and we would like that the queen could move so that we are threatening the knight on c3. So possibly the move, probably we should go queen b6. Materially, I think black might be even better. He has a pawn and very good central pawns, and a knight for a rook. That's a pretty good deal. But it's only a good deal if you can kind of keep the rest of your pieces. Knight d7, I seriously dislike that move. Surely it's just inviting this knight to d5. f6, wow. Well, if it works, it's brilliant. f6, that's a pretty ugly move to make. And it's also weakening your bishop. Your bishop loses its influence on the long diagonal. And it's also kind of creating some weaknesses. Your king isn't as safe on g8 as it would be otherwise. But other than that, it could be good. But I just feel like there's going to become some massive sacrifice now. Bishop back. That's a good sign. Maybe let's go e6. Kick the knight as soon as possible. I don't want this knight to stay here. I want it kicked away. And then what happens? I don't know. It's a very, very complicated position. I think in principle black has sacrificed, but if he manages to organize his pieces, I think these two central pawns and sort of the bishops and everything coordinating, I think that will be a great force to be reckoned with. So I think materially, black is doing very well. But he might get checkmated because this king is still in a bit of a pickle. So that's a very exciting game. Very exciting. Let's go back to Joachim. And he's still a pawn up, but now I don't like his pawn as much as I did. He's going to probably have to take this pawn. And then he's a pawn up, but he's very passive. Now, white should definitely take with the queen, I think. Because if you take with the pawn, there's no way to... he did. Now there's no way to kick out the knight on b4. I think that was a mistake. This knight is doing a fantastic defensive job. Maybe you can even do something like a5. Maybe no hurry. Bishop c6. Yeah, that's good. And then at some point maybe do a5. Maybe you can even give away this bishop immediately, just to make sure that there's less pieces on the board, and that way it doesn't matter so much that you're cramped. Yeah, that's a very good idea. I like this bishop c6 move. Just take the knight on f3 and go with the pawn, blocking everything. The knight on b4 cannot be chased away. I like Joachim's position. He's also way up on time. Okay, so Getz, he declared he was struggling with the flu. That's not a good sign. But his position seems okay. His pawns are absolutely horrendous. But I think he has so much activity, he might even be better. I really like that he kind of has a queenside initiative going with these bishops pointing towards the queenside, and also the rook plays a very important part in stopping black from castling right now. Yeah, I think possibly Nikolai's opponent misjudged this position. I think he's doing fine, and a draw would be a good result against the top Budapest player, as long as we're leading the match. So the next game is Simon Augustine. Okay. This is very difficult to evaluate. Actually, I think he might be much better, because this knight is kind of out of place, but it so often is in these Grunfeld structures, and he can go get it back into play. So that's not his biggest issue. I thought maybe his biggest issue was that he had trouble gaining control over these two important squares on the queen side. But this rook d1 move, I don't really like. I'm not sure that was a good move. Yeah, maybe. At some point, I think we should play h3, both to give the king some breathing space, but also just say to black, you need to make a decision. Do you want to give up this bishop or not? And I assume he wants to give up the bishop, but then the weakness of these pawns, of these squares, really, on the queen side, is going to have so much more effect, because the black pawns are never going to manage to advance as long as white has a bishop controlling those squares and black has no bishop of his own. He took it immediately. Okay, so the point is that if queen takes, he has the option of going knight to c4. And then he's kind of taking back the control of these two crucial squares by placing a knight blocking the white bishop. Um, yeah. Yeah, but now, I mean, if he just takes, what are you gonna do? Take, and then go e5? You're going to create a very nice passed pawn on the d file, and now this rook d1 move is making a lot of sense, supporting the passed pawn. Yeah, I really like this position. We have a question from a chat member. Are you playing today or just providing commentary? And today I'm just providing commentary. I have been doing a chat at a Norwegian newspaper during the Tata Steel tournament, and we weren't sure when that was going to be finished, so we didn't want to risk it that I would not be able to play, and that's why I'm sitting out today. But the way Seaman is playing, he might be off to a 2-0 start. I mean, maybe we should get him more often, yeah? Okay, so any other games? Okay, we'll go back to this insanely complicated thing, and we're just winning. Fantastic. Let's go back a bit. So after this knight d7 move, f6 kicked the bishop away. He just castled. Bishop b4. Okay, I would be... Okay. To me, this looks like he just made a huge mistake, blundering this pawn in the center. But now look what happened. There's a problem with white's queen. He's threatening bishop to b7, trapping the queen. And if you go queen e4, which he probably intended, then f5 opens an attack on the queen, as well as an attack on the diagonal. Okay, so that was possibly a blunder. It enabled Lashoska to go grab the pawn on f2. And this is just a blunder. Bishop d3, and he got the double attack on the bishop and on the king. Surely there was something white missed here. And now he could have gone for rook takes d7. It's strange. I mean, yeah, but then black would still be a pawn up. That's the reasoning. So after rook takes e6, Lashoska is opening the diagonal. That's gonna hurt. With the queen creating threats against white's king. Yeah, okay. Take. Chase the queen back. And now we had this position, which we were looking at when we entered the game. And, well, basically black has a bishop and a knight for a rook. And the white queen is really not doing anything on the edge of the board, actually. As a matter of fact, it might be getting trapped now. Okay, c3 rescues. But well, black ends up with two menacing bishops. Fantastic pieces. Doing a great job on the board. Lashoska is going to win this. Yeah, for sure. He has a knight and a bishop and a pawn, and this passed pawn is going to just basically queen. He's a bit low on time. Lashoska only 3 minutes left, but it should be more than enough. Okay, so we're back to the Joachim game. And Joachim has lost his extra pawn, but now he has a passed pawn supported by a rook behind. And just as I said that, he's giving up the passed pawn, but he's creating mating threats against the weakened king position, much thanks to this horrendous pawn structure. And now, after this queen d3 move, that's definitely a mistake. Rook b4 now, threatening the pawn on d4. There's no way to defend it. That's going to be a winning move for black. And he does it. Excellent. So we're going to jump to Nikolai. And he seems to be in trouble. His pawn structure is still a complete disaster. But now this kind of queenside play I was referring to earlier didn't really seem to materialize. Maybe I was being too optimistic on his behalf. So it's still equal material, but black is in big trouble. And Joachim reports on the team chat that he has won his game. Rook b4 triggered a resignation. So the last one here is Agdestein. He has his passed pawn on d6. It's currently blocked by the black queen, but surely there must be some way of chasing that queen. And Agdestein is taking his time. He knows that there's no hurry. This pawn is going to be a complete disaster for black the rest of the game. Probably maybe at some point he should see if he can play his pawn to h5. Black is doing the only thing he can, just start going with these queenside pawns, try to distract white and gain a draw somehow. And I really don't see how he's going to succeed. I think Seaman is going to win this game. Lashoskar is now down to... Oh, crikey. Okay, so Lashoskar has lost a pawn. And his time, he's down to 1 minute 20. And he hasn't really gotten his f-pawn going. It's still definitely a winning position. But his time usage, the last couple of moves, are not really inspiring too much confidence. Rook h5. Are you kidding me? That rook is going to be trapped. No. If king g6, then bishop e8. That's, wow. Some move. Lashoska definitely didn't see that. But it doesn't really matter. Let's just do it anyway and then just move the king. This rook is completely out of play. And after the bishop check, the bishop is out of play as well. So this is just what should be an easily winning position. And now attack on f5. But you just go back with your knight. Or there. And this rook is going to be trapped. And he's getting 2 extra seconds per move. So even though he's very low on time, he should be fine. Actually, he should have gone with the knight back to d6 because then he would have protected the e8 square. And now he's going king g6, but white still has bishop e8. So that was just poor play from Lashoskar. But he's still completely winning. If white manages to save himself, that would be a huge sensation. Now, one plan maybe is to go bishop a6 and then try for knight f4, trapping this rook that way. Or you can go in this position, knight to c7, just to take control over this square. He's played knight check. Oh my god, that's a blunder. Just take the bishop. Come on. Okay, but I mean, these black pieces are coordinating so beautifully. And he's yet another knight up, and he won. That is a 2-0 lead in this round of the match. It means we're up 4.5, 1.5. And Nikolai is doing well. Wow. No. Yes? C6 has to be played. You just have to play it immediately and hope it's good. But it's not good. After c6, you can take with the d pawn. Bishop takes e4. That was the point. And then pawn to c5 check. And it's a fork. And it's even a discovered attack. It's... and he went for it. That's a very nice trick from the Hungarian player. It's a very nice trick. And actually, he didn't see it. He's thinking now. And he's... Yeah, that's going to be bad luck for Nikolai. His opponent didn't see the c6 move, but he has a rescue. With d takes c6, but he didn't see it. But maybe it's made anyway, because the king is now in huge trouble with the two rooks coming down on the open files. But you just have to go for it. Just take the piece and hope you're not getting checkmated. But he is getting checkmated. Yeah. So bishop takes e4, then rook b8 check, king a5, and then bishop b3. And it's going to be checkmate on the next move. Okay, so I guess Nikolai will have to do bishop b5 here, and just hope for the best. It's not a bad try, actually. Yeah, bishop b5, and then you go bishop c3 check to avoid that white can reinforce the bishop with c4. Okay, and to check the Agdestein game, that was looking extremely promising. He did the plan of going with the pawn up to h5, and that's a new queen. That's a new queen. Just go queen that pawn. Come on, Seaman. Queen that pawn. Actually, there's some tricks here. If d7, rook d5, d8, rook takes d8, queen takes d8, we basically have this position with the white queen on d8 and no d-pawn and no rook. And then there's the move queen e4, hitting the rook, hitting the bishop, and hitting this pawn. But that shouldn't be a big issue. Probably what Seaman is calculating is he's considering the move rook takes b4. Wow, queen c4. That I think is just a poor decision. He could have just queened his pawn, and now he's... Yeah, I don't like that decision. I think it's unnecessary letting black get his pawn so far advanced. It allows for some... but this bishop is just completely dead, blocked by the pawn chain. And now Seaman, if he so pleases, I mean, he can just give up his rook, and there's not going to be any way to stop the pawn from queening. But I mean, if he wants to be a professional, probably queen d4 and then taking it is more accurate. Queen c2 with the check, that's going to be even more accurate. Just take that pawn and be done with it. And you are going to queen your d pawn somehow in the long run. So I'm gonna do some social media management again. The team chat is actually saying Nikolai is still not dead, which comes as a huge surprise to me. And Seaman, what is he doing? This was so unnecessary from Seaman. Taking the pawn on g5, letting sort of the bishop live. That was reckless and extremely unnecessary. He's still winning, but unnecessary. I think at this point you just... excellent. A very good finish from Seaman. The check, and if king f7, then g6. And it's going to be mate somehow. So the last game is Nikolai. Nikolai has been checkmated. So that was that. It's a fantastic round for the gnomes. So let's go back into social media management again, and let's make a tweet. Great round for the gnomes. 3-1 win. And then it's 5.5 to 2.5. 2.5 lead total. So let's see. Augustine is on 2 out of 2, and Joachim. I think Joachim might be on 2 out of 2. But let's just make a point out of our grand old man, our star, well, basically the reason we're all here, playing chess at a pretty professional level. Seaman Augustine, the coach of the Norwegian, the chess part of the Norwegian top athletes high school. Stand on 2 out of 2 and hashtag pro chess. So the next round is going to start in 5 minutes. So we have some time before that if there are any questions. So Joachim was on 2 out of 2 also. I'll have to, if he wins another one, he's definitely getting a mention in the tweet. There does seem to be quite a big probability of me getting booted from the team after this Augustine performance. I don't see how we can play without him when he's crushing his young, talented opponents in this manner. Chit chat with the screen, that's not gonna be my strong suit. So I would really appreciate some questions. I don't even care if they're relevant. So Lars Oskar won his game, so he's on 1 point. Nikolai struggling with the cold, he's on half a point. That's not fantastic. But he's going to have good chances to strike back because so far he has played the top 2 players on the Budapest team. So maybe he can do something about the 2 lowest rated. And I say that kind of in lowest rated because this Hungarian team is so... they're basically equals, every single one of them. They are all young IMs, ranging from 2400 to 2500. So it's a very evenly matched team. But I think that's to our benefit, because we are basically the same. We are a very evenly matched team, but with a slightly stronger board 1, because the Hungarian board 1 is actually Benjamin Guledura, one of the biggest talents in chess at the moment, but he's playing the Gibraltar tournament, so they lost out on him for that reason. Please explain what the Pro Chess League is. That's a good question. It's basically it's an internet chess tournament. We're used to having tournaments over the board. Now chess.com is expanding it to they are trying to organize more internet chess events, and the Pro Chess League, I would say, is the biggest effort they have made thus far. It includes hundreds of players competing for city teams. So essentially it's a team competition with city affiliation. The Norway Gnomes is an Oslo team. There are actually so many strong players in Oslo. I think next season it's quite likely there will be 2 Oslo teams and a fantastic rivalry. But that's going to be the next season. For now, the Norwegians are united. We have a great chess scene in Oslo, much thanks to the Simen Agdestein's chess school. So we just have a huge number of talented young players. And that's why I think we are going to do very well in the league. The structure and so on and so forth, you can read a bit about it. Basically, we're going to play, I think, 7 or 6 weeks of league matches, and then there's going to be knockouts. So the real action doesn't really begin until the knockout phase. But actually, I was a bit nervous about qualifying for the knockouts. But a win against Budapest should be a great start. Holton says Johan Salomon drew Svidler today. Johan is of course a member of the Norwegian Gnomes. Svidler is the best chess commentator ever, and making a draw against such a world star, I think that reinforces my statement that there are so many talented young players in Oslo at the moment. Marty asks, will we see you at Norway Chess this year? I don't know. I certainly hope so. But it is the organizer's privilege to decide who gets invited, and but I'm really hoping to get an invitation. Can you recommend a chess book to someone who has never read a chess book before? That's gonna be so tricky that I'm just gonna say that the new games are up, and I'm gonna have to think about that question for a little while. So this round we have Joachim playing the black pieces against the number 1 Hungarian player. He's playing the Berlin, which is known for its solidity. I think that could be good news. A draw with the black pieces would be great for the match, seeing as how we already have a good lead. Actually, this bishop a4 line is incredibly tricky. So if he's not familiar with this opening, this could go really bad really fast. So we're going to keep an eye on this game. We have Lars Oskar playing the black pieces against probably the number 2 Hungarian player. And we have a g3 King's Indian. That's a tricky opening as well. I think d5. Wow. d5. It's a terrible move, no? I mean, now you can get... but c4. Then you saved a tempo on c6. And then you can go c5 in one move. Okay, very tricky play from Lars Oskar here. Very tricky. We have Simon Agdestein with the white pieces. He's playing against the Benoni. Fun fact, the Benoni is banned at the Norwegian chess school because Simon thinks it's a horrible pawn structure. So he really has something to live up to here. There's going to be some criticism if he doesn't take down the Benoni. But having said that, I think he has a very nice position. I think he has a very nice setup. And normally one of the issues is the pressure against the e4 pawn. But here this is soundly protected. And also this bishop got out, and yeah, king h1, I like that move. We're preparing to attack with the pawns, so I like this position. Now after knight e5, still this move f4. I think the king position is weakened, and I think this is f4 is going to be a big trouble for black. So our last game is Nikolai playing with the white pieces. He's having a bit of a bad day is an exaggeration, but he has half a point. He is the lowest scoring gnome, and therefore we would like to see him win a couple of games. Now this bishop g4, you should just play h3, kicking the bishop, and then if bishop takes f3, you go take back with the bishop, and you create a square for the knight to go to e2, and basically all the black pieces are horrendous. Look at this bishop on g7, knocking into the pawn on e5 d4. This pawn structure is very solid, there's nothing you can do about it. The knight on h6 is going to be out of play as long as you don't allow it to do some funky business. On f5, so just h3 here, and it's going to be a good position for white. He's spending a bit too much time, I think, Nikolai. Okay, Simon has given up his bishop. And that, I think, was a terrible, terrible idea. So after this knight e5 move, he played f3. And that's just, oh, that's a very bad move. Because in addition to not being the move I recommended with f4, it also blocks the bishop diagonal against h5. So now you allowed black to go knight h5, and then he's coming with f5 and, you know, all this Benoni stuff, which you were really just trying to prevent. Also the option of going with the knight to f4, and he ended up just giving up his bishop for nothing. I mean, surely that cannot be a good idea. a5, bishop d7, knight here, and g3. Okay, so I mean, it's not like it was a complete blunder. He got his knight to b6. It's a very good square. But this bishop on the black squares is unopposed. Could be a problem. Doesn't necessarily need to be. Bishop here. Move the rook. Yeah, I don't like this. I don't like this. I think basically this knight is out of play. It's a very nice square, but it's not threatening anything, and it's not kind of blocking anything in or whatnot. So yeah, I think he just blundered. He played f3, and then he realized this knight gets to h5. So yeah, I think that was just a mistake. Question from Shartan. Are you a Gnomes player? And yes, I am. Not that I started too well. I had a very poor first weekend. I had 2 winning positions, which I ended up losing. And that was quite a bit of the reason why we lost our inaugural match to Riga. But yeah, Seaman is in trouble, and that is a very, very bad sign. Okay, so the next, no, this is actually a game we looked at earlier, which is the Lars Oskar, where he went first one pawn one square up, and then another square, and now he's actually much better with the black pieces. This is fantastic from Lars Oskar. Knight d2. Basically, this bishop, I think, is going to be trapped. And now he's going to spend quite a bit of time figuring out how. Okay, knight b4, threatening knight to c2. And if rook c1, what is the idea? I'm not so sure. I would have... no. After rook c1, you have knight c3. And you're winning an exchange. Wow. So rook c1, knight c3, rook e1, and then knight d3 hits both rooks. Probably some drawing chances for white because this pawn is hanging with the queen. But yeah, black is much better. Let's see. So Joachim was playing this tricky gambit, and he has remained with a pawn up. But there are some bishops lurking, pointing towards the black king. It's an interesting position. I think it's going to be an interesting game. Question from Tim. Aren't they afraid of people using chess computers during online tournaments? And yes, they most certainly are. And that is kind of the big problem with online tournaments, right? That you cannot control people as easily for cheating. So actually, the main priority for this event has kind of not only been organizing the event, but it's having the good enough anti-cheating strategies in place to make sure that you keep the integrity of the tournament. If everybody just thought that their opponents were cheating, then nobody would bother playing, basically. So what they have is they have an advanced system to detect cheating. There are some people who are under suspicion and who will be asked to play their games with a neutral observer present. And I'm confident that chess.com is doing everything they can to prevent cheating, simply because it's in their own best interest. They are trying to make chess online a big thing, and you cannot do that without having a world-class anti-cheating system. So that is what they have developed. Lashoskar is a full rook up. And also this bishop, which I mentioned in passing earlier, can be trapped if you play g5 on this move. But this knight is hanging, so preferably you would like to move the knight and then play g5. It might not be an option. g5 is a good kind of way of exchanging some pieces and kind of removing the pressure of the two bishops. And he played g5. Very good. Yeah, Joachim is under pressure, but he's a pawn up, so I have some faith. Seaman has lost his game. Yeah, that was simply not a good game. He allowed some nasty Benoni stuff to happen, and after this sacrifice of a piece, he just blundered a mate in one. Wow. Bishop d4, threatening queen g1. With the white pieces, it's definitely trouble, but I mean, I think you would maybe queen h2. You have chances to survive. It's going to be tricky, but there's survival chances. And Seaman reports on the team chat that he missed the checkmate in one move and lost. He thought for 1 minute. Wow. He thought for 1 minute before making this move, rook d1, losing to queen g1 checkmate. He was in trouble already, definitely, but that was, that was checkmate in 1 moves. In his defense, the world champion just missed a checkmate in 3 moves. So he's just being trendy, basically. Okay, a very interesting position. White has advanced his pawn to e6, and frankly, I hate it. It's a bad decision. It gives this bishop more scope, and I mean, maybe it was good when he did it here after knight d7. Yeah, I'm not sure it was even. But anyway, what's happening now is that this knight is going to go to e4. And then it's going to be very difficult to defend the pawn on e6. Yeah. Laura asks, do you see online tournaments becoming a big or serious competitor to over-the-board tournaments in the future? It seems that online tournaments do have a huge potential going forward and are innovating a lot. I'm kind of hoping that they can complement each other. That you can have both great over-the-board tournaments and great online tournaments. But as far as kind of esports, I think that chess was lagging behind in the whole streaming thing. But now there are a lot of people catching up. Chess streaming has become a big thing, which I think is very exciting. And that kind of esport tradition, I think we're going to keep learning from the esports, and you know, if they have a good thing going, probably we're just going to copy them, and they do some fantastic big knockout events and so on the line, and I could see that happening for chess as well. Micro asks, what's the meaning of gnomes? And to be honest, that is just about my fondness for cheeky wordplay. So it's an alliteration, the Norway Gnomes. Lars Oskar is still a rook up. It's not that often you say that. He's a rook up, but his opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns. It should definitely not. It should definitely be enough to get a win with the black pieces. Now he got 1 pawn, and if this bishop d3 move, bishop d3, he might just take another. If there's no dangerous checks, he might just grab as many pawns as he can. So that's Lars Oskar going for another win. He won the last round. Joachim is a pawn up still after the Gambit opening. F3, this knight is in a bit of trouble, but I think you could have just gone to g5. He chooses knight f6, giving white the option of taking this knight. I think white definitely should do that. But he chooses not to. And now you get another chance to kind of rescue this knight somewhere. Possibly even h5. h5 could be a decent square. He's struggling with his development. So he needs to play something like bishop d7 and rook to e8 the next couple of moves. How is Nikolai doing? Ah, they are spending. No, Nikolai is spending a lot of time thinking. He's down to 2 minutes. Um, that is poor time management. And now this knight is coming to attack the pawn on e6. I mean, if you're dead, maybe it's time to do something. Maybe it's time to go g4 and try to create some threats against the black king before black picks up the e6 pawn. Wow, Nikolai spent 4 minutes on his last move, and now he already spent half a minute on this move. He really needs to speed up. Okay, so Nikolai played g4. It's a rook ending, which could be interesting were it not for the fact that black is simply a rook up. And white gave away another rook, and simultaneously he resigned. So that's a very important win for Lars Oskar. It means that we have quite a bit of a lead going into the last round. But this game is still very tricky. The bishop and queen threatening checkmate on h7. Yeah, he's forced to play g6, but now these knights are looking pretty terrible. They're not coordinating well at all. And there's going to be a very big chance that this knight is getting trapped somehow at some point. Yeah, g5, I was going to say. Probably he needs to play g5. If queen c2, he can go f5. The king is not going to like it, but if you have to, you have to. And now this knight has a great spot on e5. White definitely has enough compensation for a pawn, but maybe not more. I mean, it's time to bring the rook into play, and it's not like it's gonna be an immediate disaster. And then, you know, you move this bishop back and you try to move the knight back, and you're actually quite solid. And you're still a pawn up. So that he might save this game. Yeah, I think now just move the bishop back and then move the knight back. Basically just retreating every single piece in order to because they were a bit too aggressive, these knights. They need to kind of get back to defense. Maybe even knight g6, trying to exchange off the knight on e5. Nikolai down to 1 minute 39 seconds. It's not good. But his position might be okay. It might be okay. Probably black is going to have to play knight e4 now. And then who knows what's going to happen. There's a large probability that this pawn will, that white will lose this pawn. But you can create some attacking chances on the g file. Move the king, get the rook pointing down here. Could be quite dangerous, actually. Yeah, so to avoid precisely that, black decides to take on g4. but he really shouldn't have, because what happens now is that it's much easier for white to protect this pawn on e6. And basically the whole reason why Nikolai was spending so much time was because he was worried about this pawn. So now you just play bishop d2, rook e1, you protect the pawn, and yeah, the rook is well placed on f5, but it's not clear how black is going to achieve anything. Actually, maybe bishop d2, he can play c5. Could be annoying. But you need to play bishop d2. I mean, with the time left, 40 seconds, it's really not that much time. I tried playing with the increments having 20 seconds left, and even though you get 2 seconds, 2 seconds is basically just the reaction time. So yeah, it's not really... you're going to need your time, even if... Yeah, I think that was a mistake. He should have played c5. Now he's making it a bit too easy for white to keep this pawn. And a move now like rook e3, having the option of going to the h-file as well. And this is going to get really dangerous for black. But the thing is, Nikolai is using all of his time. He needs to play faster. Yeah, this is fine as well, and just double the rooks and then get the pressure on the g-file. I think actually white could be seriously better at this moment. Maybe black should do something like the knight to d6 and then take this knight and plant your guy on e4. But that's going to take a lot of time, and you would think that Nikolai can do something in the meantime. For instance, if knight e8, then knight f7 with a cheeky fork threat on h6. What is the score in the match is a question. And the score is 5.5, 1.5 before these games. And now, let's see, Joachim has made a draw, Lars Oskar has won, and Simon has lost. That means we have 1.5 point more, which equals 7 points to 4. I think it's 7-4 with this one game remaining. If we make a draw here, we only need 1 point in the final 4 games to secure a match victory. Simon did lose to the Benoni, yes. That does tend to happen. But Nikolai, I think, has realized he only has 17 seconds left, but he has a decent enough position, and he's getting 2 seconds extra per move. So rescuing this position should be possible, I think. Now the knight is coming to d6 and e4, like I mentioned earlier. Yeah, there's a discussion in the chat how many points we need in the last round. Nikolai is going to lose this game. Maybe not. Go bishop f4 now. It's the only chance. No. Yeah, so Nikolai is going to lose this game. I think, yeah, there's no way he's going to save this. And that means we have a 7-5 lead going into the last round. 7-5 lead. I'm not going to stream some blitz afterwards. So I'm gonna go to the team captain role. And say that we need 1.5. We need 1.5 if Nikolai loses, and he is going to lose. And I'm trying to give some positive reinforcements. It's a very close match. Yeah, because if we get 1 point, it's a tied match. So then I'm going to do some social media management and say that it's a very close match against Budapest. We have a 7-5 lead going into the last 4 games, and let's hashtag that pro chess. Yeah, and Nikolai lost on time, I assume, or my internet connection might be playing some tricks on me. Is this not a finished game? Shouldn't we get some kind of a message that Nikolai has lost on time? Yes, we have. There's a question. Is it correct that you have 1 match victory and 1 match loss? That is correct. We lost our first match against Riga. Much thanks to yours truly messing up what was 2 winning positions. And not only did I mess them up, I managed to lose. So that was a very disappointing start to the season. And then we had a huge victory against the Johannesburg team. It does seem like it's Nikolai's internet connection which is having some trouble, and that is huge trouble for me because I need him to play the next round. We need all the points we can get at this point. So that's not very welcome. What has happened? Okay, so it seems like Nikolai has lost his game. It just didn't register on my screen for some reason. And saying to Nikolai that all we need from him is a solid game, just a draw with the black pieces. The next game is scheduled to start in 5 minutes. So like the previous break, it would be nice to get some questions. Why is Magnus not playing? Magnus is playing the Tata Steel tournament. Yeah. Actually, so is Aryantari, another player on our team. promising, very promising youngster. Okay, that was strange. Apparently, it broke down my stream. But my exploit is saying that it's broadcasting. So I don't know what the issue is. For some people it's up and now it's down. I don't know. I'm not the technical genius. But what I can tell you is that in 3 minutes, there's a new game coming, and it's the decisive 4 games. We could still lose this match. If we make half a point out of 4, we are going to lose the match. If we make 1 point, it's going to be a tied match, and 1.5. That is the magic number. It's going to give us a win against the team that is actually currently the division leader. So that would be actually a good win for us, not only because we need to win matches, but also because we're stopping the teams in front. So people are saying that the stream is working. I honestly don't know what happened. Maybe it's my internet connection, but I didn't think so. Let's do a refollow on Nikolai just in case. That should be fine. Yeah. 2 more minutes. Any questions? While we kill it. Yeah, there was that difficult question. I've kind of blew off because it was so difficult. It was about a book for a complete beginner, and honestly, that is really not my expertise. Complete beginner, I don't know. I have been recommending this chess book, 64 Things You Need to Know in Chess. I think I'm recommending that for someone who's interested in the game and knows how to read chess notation. And as far as beginners go, I think maybe not the best place to start, but it's definitely for a lower level audience. So that's going to be my I don't remember the author, but 64 Things You Need to Know in Chess. Will you be playing Hammer? That is a no. I am sitting out this round because of the Tata Steel chess tournament. I'm doing some work during it, and I wasn't sure I would be the round would be finished in time for me to play, and thus I had to let Seaman do the board 1 duty. Can you get to FIDE Master with just tactics? I don't know. I don't know. Tactics is a very good chess exercise. So doing puzzles is a very good way of training. So it's 7:45. That means the last game of the day should start just about now. So we need 1.5 point to win the match. That is the magic number. That is the magic number. There seems to be some kind of a delay. I'm not sure why. I'll have to go. I think there's something wrong with my internet connection. I'm not being able to even post a reply. I mean, there was something going on with this Nikolai game never getting a result. So how am I going to fix it? Refresh, I guess. That is the go-to response. Refresh. Welcome. Let's open the games. Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but I got disconnected somehow. I'm not sure. So I kind of lost track of the games. What we have up now is Joachim with the white pieces playing some kind of London system against the King's Indian attack. Or defense rather, but you know, normally when you play the King's Indian defense, you have ambition of attacking. Where is the Agdestein game? Agdestein. Uh-oh. Yeah, okay, so that's gonna be tricky. Okay, so Siemens game hasn't, it seems like it hasn't started. So that means I'm kind of in a panic mode. Where is Siemens game? Is he disconnected? No, that is another login has been detected. Oh Christ. Crikey. Okay, I'm seriously messing this up. Okay, there's Siemens game. I have no idea how that happened, but I'm very happy to see that even though I'm having technical issues, the other guys are not. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and yeah, that is 4 games. My apologies to everyone. I'm really not sure what happened. We're going to catch up on the games. Nikolai, who has had a horrible day so far. He has half a point out of 3, despite being our second highest rated player. He's playing with a pawn on e3. That looks like a pawn that might be in trouble, let's say. Maybe he could have considered going f5 there instead of this move, going f5 and trapping the knight. No, because then you can take here and take here. So you should move the knight, and then f4, and then now bishop takes e3 next. No, because the knight is hanging. So maybe you should go something like, yeah, but this bishop is still out of play. It's a very unorthodox position. I think probably white is doing very well. Lars Oskar with the white pieces is already worse. Yeah. Okay, so if you take the queen, then black takes on d4. Are you kidding me? He took, and then he's going bishop b6, saying that you cannot take this pawn because then I will get my rook on the c file, creating some threats. That's a very interesting approach. Very interesting. So probably black will have to go knight c6. And it's difficult to say who is better. Probably black is better, but maybe not. I mean, the knight is easier to kind of maneuver, and the bishop is suffering from the pawns being on. No, but he has rook to c8. Rook to c8. Yeah. And white is just a pawn down. It's a horrible start for the Norwegian team so far. I think we have 2 losing positions already. Or do we? f5? Where is this knight going to go? I cannot see any safe haven. f5? This knight is in some trouble. So let's not write off Nikolai as a potential winner. Oh my, wow. e6. There are quite a bit of white pieces pointing towards the e6 square, and he's gone for it. He took on e6 almost without thinking. I mean, he spent 8 seconds on taking that pawn. That was a really big decision. Frankly, he should have spent more time than that on that move. And now bishop takes d6. This is very complicated, but queen c6 threatens checkmate in one move. And it threatens rook e8. No, it doesn't threaten rook e8 actually, because if rook e8, then you have knight f7. But it does threaten rook to f6. But anyway, I mean, what Joachim should do is he should play d5. And I'm surprised he hasn't already. I mean, surely that was his plan going into this. but we could have a very interesting position in which black has 2 pieces for a rook versus a rook and 2 pawns. And that could frankly go either way. But I think probably white is better. White is probably better. So we need 1.5 points. And Seaman, wow. They have been playing very quickly. Seaman with a pawn and a queen in exchange for 2 rooks. That is a very interesting constellation. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think this is going to be a thrilling finish. I think we got in on the wrong foot, and at the very least, this game of Lars Oskar he's just a pawn down. I think this is basically a lost cause. So we're going to lose this game, and then we have the Nikolai game. And Nikolai went for bishop f5, which was a big mistake, because now after d6, now the knight comes to d6, threatens the bishop on f5, and also threatens the here on e2. I guess it was trying to confuse his opponent, potentially get the knight e3 next. So he's not going to be a piece down. I think knight e3 is going to save him from being a piece down. But he's a pawn down. His bishop is out of play on h6. Yeah, I think probably he will. And the time, once again, Nikolai spending so much time. He's going to have a very tough time trying to make a draw in this game. So that means if we're down 2-0, we actually need a win just to save a tied match. Let's see. Joachim played e4 after thinking for quite some time. And then after rook f6, which I thought was the reason he couldn't play this line, he went d5. Wow. This is some very advanced stuff. What if you take the queen? You take this one. Wow, that is some very tricky stuff. And if the queen just takes here on d6, then you just take back, and there's a fork, getting the king in the corner and the knight, or whatever pieces are left on d6. That is very tricky play. So after queen c8, check, check, check. It's a draw. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing he can do. He cannot avoid the draw. And there's no smothered mate because the rook still has control over the f7 square. So yeah, it's a draw. I think it's a fine result for us. It's an okay result for us. It means that this Agdestein game will be the decisive game of the entire match. I think, let's say, I'm pretty certain we're going to lose the 2 other games. So that means effectively in the match, this is a tied match. And Augustine, if he loses this game, we have lost the match despite having a 7-5 lead going into the last 4 games. And I think the 2 rooks against the queen, there are many situations in which the rooks manage to beat the queen. But it's not so common when black has a passed pawn protected by another pawn. So I think black is better, and I think all results are possible. But it's more likely that Seaman will become the match winner and win the game for us than being than being the fall guy. Ooh, this became a very close match. Judging from the beginning, I thought we were playing very well and going to win the match quite easily. But they fought back, and now it's this position is going to decide everything. Let's do a quick recap on the other games. Nikolai is a pawn down, but also his bishop is very out of play, and the white bishops are creating some threats. Ooh, that's not a good move. Pinning the knight. If the knight moves, you lose the rook. Nikolai is going to have to resign. Here, Lars Oskar, not only the knight is more mobile than the bishop, black simply has an extra protected passed pawn. So he's going to lose that as well. It means that Augustine, this is the decisive game. It's going to decide the entire match. And now Augustine is coming with his king. On the next moves, if he is allowed, he will move this king to c5, probably. Playing f5 at some point in between. But I think the big question here is whether or not white in this position can play e4. I'm really not sure. I think e4 might be a saving move for white. Yeah, I really thought we were going to win this match. It was looking good. But this is tricky stuff. So e4, the point of course is to try to eliminate the defense of the c4 pawn. And if you capture the pawn on e4, then the knight goes back and you capture you definitely get the c4 pawn. I mean, there's a very real possibility that black is worse after e4. I think the last move, Siemens' last move, was probably inaccurate. I mean, he should have gone f5. And now if he goes king f6, that's definitely a mistake. I think he should go f5 to stop this possibility of playing e4. even a move like knight d6 is completely fine. Just placing that knight on e4, and okay, so I have a message on the team chat I need to respond to. Somebody else will probably do it. So knight d6 and then knight e4, also good move. But whatever happens, we really need to stop this e4 move. I think if king f6 e4, there's a chance that white could win the game. You know, actually, I shouldn't be on the team chat in case somebody is checking it while playing. But I'm sure that they will agree. I just commented that 2 of our guys are just completely lost. I'm gonna... yeah, I'm gonna implement a radio silence while the decisive game is taking place. But Seaman is really thinking now. I think he's been thinking for, it must be 3 minutes. And I think it's an important... I really think he needs to play f5. I think if he goes king f6, e4, I think white is better. And this kind of ending, it's not really like if somebody's better or not. It's basically, are you going to win or are you not? So I think king f6 might, it might lose, because the pawns are getting split up, and then white gobbles 1 pawn. White gets the rooks into play, attacking the black king, and it might go really bad really fast. So Getz has lost his game. Lashoskar is a pawn down, and he's going to be another pawn down as black does some stuff with the king. Inevitably, he's going to lose that game. Seaman spends 3.5 minutes on his move, plays the queen to b4. I'm not sure what the point is. I guess e4 is still a good option. Black goes rook d2, attacking the pawn on d5. Yeah, I don't know. I think... Yeah, Seaman goes back, inviting the rook to go back. But now, at this point, white has better options. I mean, at this point, I think white should just play rook b1. Trying to make something happen. So he plays rook d1. He chooses not to repeat moves, even though he was invited to. Now knight c3, good move. The rook needs to move again. And basically what white accomplished now is that he has the square d4 for his knight, and there's nothing black can do about that. So we'll just have to go with the king. I think there's serious risk of black losing this game, but I also think it's serious risk that black ends up winning this game. So I think this is a very interesting game so far. And it really could tip either way. And I think it's going to be a time trouble. It's going to be decided in the time trouble, and I think it's the perfect storm. Seaman Augustin with the black pieces, a queen for 2 rooks. It's the decisive game of the match. If white wins, Budapest wins the match. If it's a draw, the match is tied. And if Seaman wins, he is the match winner for Team Norway. And he's taking his time, the Hungarian player. So probably Seaman is going to play the pawn to g4 next. And then it's actually a big decision just to decide whether or not you want to exchange. As white, you might say that I want to keep the pawns. I'll just pass. Okay, knight e2. Yeah, that's a good move. That's a good move. I think probably he should take the knight. Probably he should take the knight, but it's a very committal. It's a big decision. Yeah, he has taken the knight. And rook takes. That is the correct rook. And that I think was a mistake by Seaman. I think probably he should have played the queen to d3 immediately. And now he allows white to gang up on this pawn on d5. There's nothing he can do to stop a rook d2 on the next move. That's a very good move from Seaman. Very good move. Queen b3. Now if rook d2, then c3 is possible. Winning, even. Winning. Threatening the rook, keeping an eye on this rook, and also keeping an eye on the pawn backwards. In time trouble, isn't it easier to play quickly with the queen? That is probably true. But if the rooks coordinate, they might just control everything. They might protect each other so that you have nothing else to worry about. And that's going to be a concern for the Norwegian fans. Rook c1 has been played. g4. It's still very unclear. I mean, it's actually rare you have a situation in which it's this, oh, now g3 possibility. And he's played it. g3, rook up, takes, takes back. Yeah, Seaman has secured a king position. He's definitely not going to lose this game now. There are not enough pawns. Even if the white rooks manage to coordinate, they can only take this pawn on d5, which Seaman can protect with his queen. So at worst, he's going to have some exchange, 2 rooks for a queen and pawn. Might be a draw, but at the very least, he's not going to lose. So he's playing for a win here. Should the king come up here? Yes, he should, because the trick is if black moves rook d2, then you had queen f3 check, hitting both the king and the rook on c3. So f5, I think there was a better choice in the position, but now you're threatening f4. White plays g3 to stop that threat. Queen a5. That's a very good move. Very good move. Because now you cannot move the rook along the rank. So you're going to have to retreat it, and then you can come up with your king. Yes, very good. The king comes up, and basically now white is stuck moving back and forward. And in the meantime, how do you win? How do you win? How do you win? I mean, probably you should try somehow to get the queen around. But I'm not sure how you accomplish that. It might be a draw. It might be a draw. Okay, Seaman is... Okay, that's an interesting solution. He's trying to go with his king the other way. But what now about this pawn on f5? I think we're going to have to open the possibility of black losing again. He might overpress. Wow, g4. That, I think, is a terrible move. Takes, and now king e4. This king is in trouble. This king is going to have trouble coordinating with the rooks. King e4 now. You cannot play rook f2 because then there's a check attacking the king, attacking the rook. This king just eliminated the basically the only pawn that was defending it. But it still might be difficult to win. The king is now here stuck on g1. But it's not clear as long as you hold this structure of the rooks protecting each other and this rook protecting the pawn on e3. It does seem like a fortress of some kind. And now he's taking the king. This is interesting. Now he's going with the king over here to b4 to knock this rook away. But is it enough? I'm not so sure. Probably you should go with the rook first, yeah? Good move. Now queen to d2. But then king f3. And now if the king comes around, then you can probably do some kind of exchanges. Okay, is this progress? Queen f1. It's a Zugzwang. It's a Zugzwang, but he has rook a3. Rook a3, the only move. Very good attempt by Seaman, trying to create some pressure. And now he's getting the queen. He's chasing the king to the kind of the wrong side of his rooks. But what now? Maybe king f3. King f3. Can we try to get the king to attack somehow? It's very tricky. The guys are down to seconds on the clock. Seaman has 10 seconds more, and he's the one pushing. He's the one pressing. So probably it's easier for him to make quick moves, to pose problems for his opponent. Okay, so white has decided he's happy to keep his king here on the king side, on the queen side. And that's going to ease his defensive task, because it also means that his moves are very easy now. He has a straightforward plan. But now Seaman is coming with the king. The king is coming towards the b4 square. Check. Going back. Very professional from Seaman. Repeating moves. He's not going for a draw. He's trying to win. Now, the next move, the king is coming to d4. No! No! Are you kidding me? Seaman assumed that he was going to play. Oh, he assumed that in this position, white was going to play rook to d4. And he basically pre-moved the queen e2 move. And after rook c2, he played queen e2 anyway. And then rook e2. So we lose the last 4 games. 3.5 to a half. And with it the game. With it the match. It was not a mouse slip. It was probably intentional. He probably thought that white would play the different move, rook to d4. Wow, what a way to end the match. 3.5, and we ended up losing the match. That is so sick. But that is the risk, you know, when you're pushing one of these positions, your opponent is defending well. There's always a risk you make a mistake and you lose. Okay, so Seaman is saying on the team chat that it was actually, in fact, a mouse slip. That is some drama. Wow. Wow. Yeah, this decided the match. Budapest has won it by the lowest margin possible. 8.5, 7.5. Wow. Yeah, so that was it for my commentary of the Norway Gnomes match. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. It was a thrilling finale, but unfortunately, the Gnomes once again losing a match to one of the stronger teams. And at this point, it's actually a real possibility that the Gnomes will not qualify for the knockout stages. So stay tuned. Follow Norway Gnomes on Twitter. It's basically our homepage, webpage, and we will be back trying to salvage a knockout spot next week. Take care.